just never know.
What's his name?
You never know what you're gonna get.
Who are you?
Are you ready?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'm Bob Bagley. I'm running for County Commissioner, Precinct 4. I'm currently on the board, serve on the board for Montgomery County Hospital District. I've been there for 3 years. This will be my last year on the board. After getting elected, I'll go ahead and terminate my position on the board in December of this year. We've managed to do a lot of things with the hospital district. We're the only county entity that has no debt. We've managed to drop our tax rate every year for the last 3 years that I've been on the board. I know there's some talk about, yeah, you drop the tax rate, but the taxes increase because of the appraisals. We can't fix the appraisals. All we can do is manage the tax rate. That's out of our hands in the hospital district. I was asked a while back if I would change the taxes in the county, and I can't say right now that I would lower any of the county taxes. We have $795 million of debt, just in county debt. The school districts in Montgomery County, all of the school districts combined, is $2.5 billion in debt. Every city and every locality that outside the Woodlands township that has an incorporation has a debt, except for Patton Village. And then we have debt from all of the MUDs and the RUDs throughout the county. And then some of the ESDs, the fire departments, have debt. This county is over our head in debt. You'll hear people say that, well, we're only this much in debt. And I gotta tell you, if you go and buy a new car, the car price is $22,000. You're not just paying the $22,000, you're paying the interest as well. So when you hear that we're only in debt $465 million in the county, it's not true, because we have to pay the interest as well. The interest on some of these loans goes out to 2043. It's ridiculous. We've got to stop it. So not only would I not lower the tax rate because we need to retire the debt, but we have a problem with crime in Montgomery County, throughout the entire county. In East County is no different than anybody else. We've got drugs, we've got prostitution, we've got human trafficking, that was the word I was looking for, that's taking place out there as well. We don't have enough cops. When I was gonna go on Los Angeles Police Department in 1971, the ratio was 1 cop for every 1,000 people. We have over 500,000 people in this county. We're not even close. And I don't really wanna see us get that close to 1 for every 1,000, but we don't have enough cops out there in the sheriff's office. The sheriff is the #1 police officer for the entire county. He has the overall authority. We have our constables, and they're doing a good job. Their primary function, though, is to service tickets, not tickets, but warrants. 30 seconds to read on. Anyway, done.
First questions?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
If you had your pick of commissioners to build a coalition to achieve your goals, who would they be?
Out of the ones that are currently seated and the ones that are running,
Yes.
of course, James Nowak would stay on there. I'd like to see Mark Bosma on there. And I would also, I think Kurt Harmon would be good on there as well. I could work with all of them. Yeah, we'll be able to make the changes that we need. We'll only have 1 commissioner that won't be voting with us the majority of the time, and he's due to change over in 2 years.
Gail?
I understand, you've made it clear one of your main issues is the debt, and yet you say we have inadequate law enforcement, inadequate infrastructure. Those two seem at odds, and so how do you reconcile those two?
Well, the problem with the infrastructure, and we don't have enough time tonight to go into that one, but the infrastructure, we've had no plan. We've got our governor, we've got our elected officials here, we've got said that's going out there and trying to bring businesses in. We're getting the business in, but we're not building the infrastructure up to, for when they get here. We've got overcrowding on almost every one of our streets, and now we're trying to catch up. When the new theme park goes in East County, we're not gonna be ready for it, because we don't have the transportation. We don't have the way to get from 45 to 59 to 242 along that pathway. It's a two-lane street. We can't do it. Yeah. We're going to have money for the roads, and we're going to have money for law enforcement, and there's ways that it can be cut in the current budget.
What are those ways? That's what he's asking.
The primary functions of the government are to make sure that we're secure and that we have a good infrastructure, we have roads to go on. So anything else can start being looked at for being cut. It's not gonna go over well, but libraries are one of them. We spend a ton more money on the libraries than what we need to. It's one of the constable's big things, but the amount of money that goes into the library versus what we put into law enforcement is a shame. But anytime they come forward, they are always getting money because it's for the kids.
Do you have a?
What's your plans for 105?
You know as well as I, we've had a number of meetings out there discussing 105. We've had TxDOT out there, we've had HGAC that's talked with us. At one time, they were gonna widen it, they were gonna put in trees down the center and flower gardens and all of this stuff. We got them to change that, and then they wanted to put an island in the middle, and then we talked to them about just putting a passing lane. Well, right now, there are no plans with TxDOT to do anything in Montgomery County for the next 5 years. We've got to work together with them and HGAC to make sure that we get the money that we need to be able to do that. We need some new traffic lights on 105. There's a couple of different areas on 105 that'll help with the flow of traffic some and cut down the number of accidents and deaths that we've had along that road.
Where would you suggest they look at traffic light?
I've had a number of people come talk to me about it. I haven't seen the traffic flow, the numbers. I can't tell you where the intersections are. I can show you, but I can't remember the names of the streets right
Okay.
now.
I had a question about our area specifically, because you are running for the position where I live.
Yes, ma'am.
And East County, as I already stated before, we are considered the armpit of the county, or I said the poor part, but y'all in the woodlands know what you think about us. But anyway, the point is, what will you do about some of the specific issues? For instance, what are you gonna do when Reinhardt gets out and his secretary leaves with him, i.e. his wife? Will you hire a friend or relative? What about the contracts that you give out? Will you give them to anybody that's a friend of yours, and they get a financial benefit? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I do, absolutely, and I'm not sure that she's still there.
But you know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, all of a
I
sudden,
do
the
know
wage
exactly what you
doubled
mean.
and his wife got the job.
Exactly. I will not tell you that I will not hire a friend to come in there, because when I get in there, I need somebody that's gonna hold me accountable, as well as somebody that I can trust. And I don't have that going in. So I can't tell you that I'm not going to hire somebody that I know to come and to be my second in charge. I will tell you that there's not gonna be any family that's gonna get hired. There's not gonna be any contracts that go out. I've got a good record with the hospital district, making sure I'm clean on all of those cases. We've had a number of builders that I could have gone to and said, hey, help me out at the house type thing, that it's not happening. It's not gonna happen. It isn't right. Even the look of it isn't, even if it was all above board, it still wouldn't look right.
David?
Cut and shoot. If I have a community center, can you commit to me tonight that you will support and build us a community center?
No, I can't.
Why not?
I can't do that tonight to tell you that I would do that, because we have one in Security right down the street. Cut and Shoot had their own community center, it was a private entity. There is a possibility of that being bought, but we don't have a community center in every part, in every one of the different sections of East County. We have a community center in Security, we have a community center in Splendora, we have one in Grangerland, and we have one in New Caney, and that's, yeah, but that's not District 4. That's not Precinct 4. So that's what we have, and they're small. We don't have big ones like Willis has and like Montgomery have. We've got small ones because we're small communities out there. So no, I can't guarantee I'm going to do that. Yes,
I live
ma'am.
there, I have another question. Are you familiar with the areas that have water issues, the
Yes, ma'am.
drainage
Yes,
issues that have, we live over near the river, and as you approach from 1314 to the river, it's up, okay, so, however, for years, Reinhardt has thought that by digging ditches, the water will run uphill and then go down to the river. So, if you're familiar with the areas,
Right.
do you have somebody you know that you could go to try to at least fix these problems?
We've got plenty of good engineers, and we've got good engineers that work for the county, and it should be looked at, but you're not gonna run water uphill. During the last rain that we had out there, and this is one of the things I wanna do, and I got some of this today at a community meeting, government meeting, but, I went down 1314 and 1485 and watched the drainage. And you can go along and for a quarter of a mile, the water's flowing just perfect. It'll stop all of a sudden and it's backed up. It's backing up over, not over the road, but back over into the property. Every time that we have a rain, every time that we have a heavy rain like that, it's my plan to make sure that we have work crews out there with their cell phones, pinpointing where the water is at, so afterwards that we can go and try to find out what the problem is. And that can be done. We'll put it all on the map, pinpoint it with GIS, and then we can work through it. We can't fix a lot of the water problems that we have over there because a lot of that's marshland, it's all wetlands. They've built up in some places, but in other places, it's like living in Louisiana, you know.
There are times when it's better. For instance, near an election, it's better. Because the prisoners are brought out
Right.
and they pick up all trash, they clean all ditches. So if an election is coming, it's better.
Right.
But if we can maybe keep that going and keep the guys in orange suits working.
And I'll tell you, we have a problem with getting the prisoners out to it, because I've talked with the sheriff about it. It's extremely hard, the things that have to be done. Our state really puts more limitations on us with prisoners than what the federal government does with the federal prison that we have. They are so limited on the things that they can do. We need some changes in the state house for dealing with that, but there's no reason that they shouldn't be out every day. They should be out working every day.
Brian? Have you ever been to the state legislature and lobbied for stuff? So you
Yes.
have experience doing that, and what kind of things did you lobby for?
I've lobbied for gun rights, I've lobbied for pro-life, I've lobbied for, this last legislative session, I tried to push 2 bills through for the hospital district, and all it was cleaning up legislation, because we are a government entity. We changed our election dates from May to November to try to save the taxpayers' dollars. We tried to get that pushed through and get the legislature to pass it. Unfortunately, the senator that I gave it to came back and said he couldn't do it because it had to do with raising taxes, and there was absolutely nothing in there about taxes, so they didn't even read the bill, they threw it out. So I've been up there. The last thing that I testified for was when we did the abortion, the new abortion law that we did for the 20-week and the clean clinics. I testified before the Senate for that.
Can you continue the heavy trash pickup like Reinhardt has instituted?
Yeah, and I think we need to do more than what we've been doing with that. You know, not East County, but Precinct 3 has a very good hazmat and recycling center, and we really don't have the same facility in East County. And I think that there are things that we should be able to move over into their district. We've become 4 different, we have 5 districts really, but we've got 4 precincts that everybody's doing their own thing, and we need to start looking overall. This is no longer a sleepy little community. We're over 500,000 in population. We're continuing to grow. Over the last 10 years, we increased by 50% in our population. Hazardous materials and things like that are a problem. The heavy trash, we have a lot of people that just go down the road, especially in East County, and just dump their stuff. I went by down the road today in Old Sorters Road, and there's tires, there's trash, there's, you'll see refrigerators and stuff like that dumped off the side. Those don't stay long because somebody will pick them up for scrap, but the tires stay there forever.
I'm about to wear you out, I give up.
That's fine.
Understand, there is an idea about redistribution of the budget. Do you know anything about it?
That I haven't heard. I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
I'm not sure what redistribution of the budgets.
Well, everybody gets a fourth.
Everybody gets a fourth now, and that needs to stop.
Oh.
If we start doing centralized planning, especially for roads and for some of the other things that we do, it doesn't need to be split up that way. I'll go back to the bill, the $200 million that they tried to pass a bond for the roads. They wanted to, they had no plan. It wasn't passed through TxDOT, it didn't go through HGAC, they just wanted, and we need the roads, don't get me wrong, but have a plan when you come to the people and tell them you want to do the roads. And when it was in Commissioner's Court and they talked about it, we're gonna take the $200 million and we're gonna split it up 4 ways. Every district, every precinct gets $50 million. Well, what's it going for? They don't have to tell you. It's just going for roads. We gotta stop that. So, yeah, the redistribution, I do believe that there are ways to do
How
that.
are you gonna make sure we get our fair share?
Well, what's our fair share?
A quarter?
No, it's not. Because if you talk to the people in the Woodlands, they're gonna tell you, well, we bring in more money than any part of the county. All of that money should stay with us. What we need to do is, it needs to be divided out properly. If you get together and you put together a plan for the roads, for instance, and you prioritize them, the money is gonna go wherever it needs to go for those different entities. The commissioners are still gonna have their money to be able to operate their things with. The friendship centers, for instance. Ed Reinhardt,
Play some bingo games.
he takes care of his with his money, but others don't. And that's one of the things, I don't want to cut out supporting the centers, but I think there's other ways to fund it. Charlie Riley's talking about doing a donkey basketball game to raise money for the friendship centers in his precinct. There's nothing wrong with us doing things like that to be able to take care of it. And instead of paying somebody $60,000 to run the friendship center, we could be having volunteers.
Alice? You have a question?
I was just gonna say, I seen that you were in the military,
Yes,
Air
ma'am.
Force,
Yes, ma'am.
and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
What you did in the Air Force, if you are elected to this position, will any of that experience help you?
All of it'll help me.
All of it?
I was a cop while I was in. I did emergency planning. I was a manager. I managed a huge budget. I taught over 3,500 people a year in different things. And I was a heavy equipment operator. I was a safety inspector and an instructor. I was a hazmat inspector, instructor, and pyrotechnics. we're not gonna do any pyrotechnics, but we do have all those other issues within there. And a manager of personnel, so, everything that I did in the service will help with this job.
Right? I got two questions. What's our fair, back to the fair share,
The
what's,
fair share.
what's the fair share? That's question number one. And number two is, why do you, if we're growing so much and our roads are so clogged, why did we vote down the $200 million bond?
And I don't think you were in here when
Oh, you already
when I
said.
talked about that.
Sorry.
The reason we voted it down and I helped push not to do it was because there was no plan for it. We weren't working together we weren't working together with HGAC, we weren't working together with TechStop, we weren't working together with different commissioners, we had no plan. It was just gonna be take the money and run, basically. And that was one of the reasons we turned it down. We've got to make some changes. We can't, it takes 45 minutes on some mornings to get on 242, from 1485 to 45. It's a 2-lane road and there's only a few stoplights, but that's what it takes. There's been talk for years about the flyover that's supposed to go over 242 at 1314. That'll eliminate some of it, but that's been on the books since I got here in 97. It still hasn't taken place yet. Nor with the widening of 1314 all the way from 242 up to 105 was supposedly in a bond that was passed in 96, but
So then what's your idea of
what's fair?
what's fair?
You know, I don't really know. What's fair is fair for the entire county. It's not just for that one precinct. And we don't have anybody in here from the Woodlands. That's their big deal. When you talk to the Woodlands, the people in the Woodlands, it's like, we're putting all this money into the county. Why aren't we getting anything back out of it? Why do we have to pay for extra cops through the sheriff's office? Because they're a township and they're not paying for city cops. That's why they have to do it. But that's the cry. And I don't know how to divide it any better than having a plan and having a group come together and say, this is where we need to go with money.
Time for just one more, Michelle.
Is there any way that, that our part of the county could coordinate with East County Improvement District on some of the things that we spend money on to reduce the spending? Because they spend a lot of money in much of the same area that you would be in.
They don't. The Montgomery County Improvement District is there strictly to bring business into East Montgomery County. That's it.
It's based on zip codes.
Right, I
And they can't do
understand
that.
that, but they also spend money, like the park, they're spending a lot of money on the park up there.
They're giving, excuse me, they're giving grants. And they do that with the fire departments. They've helped out some of the law enforcement with radios and things like that.
Is there,
Again, we have another taxed entity.
Right.
And those are elected officials as well, but there's not enough oversight from the people to monitor what they're doing. They're getting a lot of money. They are serving a purpose, but East County is the only part of the county where a child graduates from high school, whether it's a GED, whether it's public school, private school, or homeschool, and gets $1,000 to go to college. And that's done through MSED, but that's the only place that takes place in Montgomery County. And I think it's a good thing. But again, it's tax dollars. And it's really, is that what we're supposed to be doing with our tax dollars? Not by law, but not by constitution. So no, they don't have a budget per se to fix roads, to do, put lighting.
I know they don't,
or
I'm just
anything
saying,
else.
on anything that overlaps, for instance, buying something for the police officers.
Right.
If we already have a project to improve something else the police officers are doing, why not coordinate those monies spent to,
Well, the monies that are asked for, the monies that come from MSED, for instance, for the police department, is what they go to MSED and ask for a grant for something specifically. It's not excuse me, it's not a budget type item. It's not something that, here's the money. They get their cars, they get their lights, they get their radios, their MDTs, they get their monitors, all of that stuff they get. But if there's something special that comes up that they need, and they don't have it in the budget, and they don't wanna go to Commissioner's Court and ask for it, then they get a grant for it. And I'm not real big on grants, especially when it comes from the federal ones, because if you'll notice, most of the police cars have changed, all of them will change to black with white doors and white tops. That's because we took money from Homeland Security, and that was a string that was attached that nobody even looked at the time. Same thing with all the uniforms, will be black SWAT gear uniforms, all of them for every department because of that.
We got 3 minutes to close.
We've talked about infrastructure, we've talked about, we talked a little bit about crime, we talked about the cops. We have a water issue problem. One of the things that I've fought on has been the toxic well injections, and there's a couple in here that have been part of that as well. It's still not over, it's waiting to go to, it's at appellate court now, still waiting to get through federal appellate court. It'll be a disaster if it takes place. The county's already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, as well as other entities, to stop this from going through. If it goes through, it could pollute our water from here all the way to Galveston, which would, it would kill this part of the state. We'll have no water. I've enjoyed serving my country, serving the county, and I wouldn't be doing this if I felt there was somebody else that was more qualified to do it. I'd be taking care of my grandkids. I was asked a question that after you finished your term as commissioner, how will you know that you've succeeded? And my success will be if we've restored integrity and faith of our government to the people, to the taxpayers, and the community. Because right now we don't have any. There's no integrity, and there's no faith in the government anymore, and that's a shame.